right, so today is the roles of men and women, part 7. This is the final part. You guys don't know if you should clap or not. Some of you are happy, some of you are not. That's kind of the way it is with men and women. Some of us are happy, some of us are not. Depends on the moment, I suppose. All right, but today, this is what I promised you we would do. Bear in mind, we did 6 parts of this already. And I think this is a Sukkot appropriate thing because after all, we're going to be dealing with each other, hopefully perfecting those roles for 1,000 years. The millennium is what Sukkot's about, leading into the forever kingdom, which is what Shemini Atzeret's about. Okay? So I promised you a Q&A session. So if you're online, you can start typing in your roles of men and women questions. Easy for me to say. If you're here, we got the podium. You guys can line up because today we're going to answer all the questions you wanted to have answered or anything you were afraid to ask, but whatever. Okay, and we'll cover all of that today. So I'm going to give a little preemptive while you're thinking of your questions just to kind of remind us of what we covered leading up to this. All right, so we started in part 1 with man created in the image and likeness of Elohim. Okay? And so man was to be like, seeing man was to be like seeing Elohim, in other words. We're in his likeness. So when you saw man, you would be like seeing Elohim, which means that man was to be like him, properly representing who and what he is. Okay, that was our role. Elohim, like man, was to bear fruit and increase and fill the earth. And man was to have authority over the earth and subdue it, bring it under authority. Okay? Now, Elohim also recognized that it was not right for man to be alone and then created woman from man. Okay, so then now we have the beginning of all this wonderful mess, okay? And we can see it worked really well because Adam and Chava was smooth and perfect. I'm sure after, you know what you don't read in Genesis? The discussion they had after Yahweh talked to them about what happened with the Nachash. Why'd you give me that fruit? I don't know. Why didn't you say something and step in and you know, I'm sure there was one of those discussions. That doesn't get recorded in our scripture for us, though, okay? Now, okay, unfortunately, we have the volunteer fire department right across the street, so we're going to hear the sirens every now and then. All right. So Elohim formed man out of the below, out of the earthly. And then he breathed into us the above. Okay, so that was because remember, he's in the above, we're in the below, heavenly, earthly, spiritual, fleshly. We've got all that going on. And so when he did that, basically, he took us as dead, right? We're dead in our trespasses, dead in our flesh, and he breathed into us life, making us living beings, basically popping our bubble, giving us a connection and an awareness of him. All right? We also have, as we studied all this, that man was put in the garden to work it and guard it. We have 2 jobs, work, guard. Okay? We never gave you the job to play, goof off, whatever, okay? Work, guard. He gave us work to do. I have a feeling, I don't think it's a stretch, that we're going to spend forever doing a lot of work. There's going to be a lot to do forever. I have a feeling this giant universe out there has got things with your name on it to work on, okay? Now, that being said, we're to work it and we're to guard it. Some of us are a little weak in our guarding. Guarding our families, guarding Torah, guarding our vertical relationship. I was very proud to hear, I think it was Maisie was talking about how she could have gone on this trip and she decided, no, I'm going to be doing this thing here with what Yah said. I'm not even going to think about it. You know, guarding. Guarding is not like, oh, I'm a Sabbath keeper. No, you're a Sabbath guarder. You got to protect it, guard it, watch over it. Okay? Part of it is keeping it. Now, then we have in there the husband-wife relationship we talked about for a couple of parts. And it was based on, of course, that really important thing that 2 cannot walk together unless they have an agreement on how they're walking. And we talked about that quite a bit, so maybe that'll come up in the discussion here as people ask their questions. You know, what does that look like to walk together? We talked about getting to really understand each other so that you can actually walk in agreement. You know, most people get married, never have a discussion about what that's going to look like. They just have an agreement that they want to get married. That's the agreement. Oh, I love you. Oh, I love you. Let's spend the rest of our lives together. Okay, but then we got to have everyday stuff happening that we don't agree about. And then what? You got to talk about this stuff up front. And if you're already married, you got to talk about it now and come to agreement. And we talked about the agreement or the expectation exercise. We talked about love languages, and we talked about personality styles, right? So that we can understand each other. We talked about observing, right? Paying attention to what your other person is like, how they respond, what they do, how they feel, okay? And then learning them so you understand them, and then you adjust. And they should be doing the same with you. Paying attention, because it's amazing to me when I watch some of you act shocked when your spouse does the same thing they've done for 23 years, and you still act like you're surprised. Even though they've been doing the same thing for 23 years, 25 years, whatever. Why are you surprised? Well, you're not paying attention. You know? And then some of you go and push the button on your spouse, and then you act surprised like you didn't know that was going to explode the button. Even though you know that button, exactly what that button does. It's not like that button doesn't have a giant label on it. It will cause explosion. Don't touch. Okay? But you do it anyway. Well, sometimes you do it on purpose. Okay, that does happen too. Well, that's just foolish. Okay, that's dumb. Don't do that. All right? We talked about the relationship with husbands and wives. Okay, again, I picked on the men, I picked on the women. I gave you each, hopefully, somewhat of an understanding of what your role was supposed to look like, okay? We got a lot of confused people out there in both roles. Okay, we got a lot of boys, very few men. We got a lot of girls, very few women. Okay, because men provide and protect. Men do not need, they give. Okay? All a man really needs is you to respect and believe in him. All right? Now, if you need more than that, then you're having either feminine stuff going on in your personality or you've got boy stuff going on. Okay? If you're a man, you shouldn't need a whole lot. But you should be treated with respect, and you should be, in other words, given that respect and honor, and you should be treated with appreciation. I believe in you. I trust in you. Those affirmations of, I know you're the one that's going to take care of you, make sure everything's okay. And ladies, when you treat your husband anything than that, anything where you show that you're afraid, you don't trust, you doubt them, that destroys them. Of course, men, some of you earned all that badness because you've not been trustworthy, you've not provided, you've not protected. Okay? Ladies, you were created to be his helpmeet. But men, they're supposed to be helping you because you're doing something. You're going somewhere. Some of you have not gotten mad enough for being broke. Some of you have not gotten mad enough. Some of you still call here, well, I was going to come to the feast, but I didn't have enough money. What do you mean you didn't have enough money? Yahweh gave you second tithe to have. I know, but I can't even make my tithes because I can't pay my bills. Well, then fix the problem. I've got people out there, and you guys need to own this if this is you. You've been unemployed for 3, 6, or more months, 6+ months, because the jobs available don't pay enough. Pays more than nothing. Go get 2 of them, 3 of them, 4 of them. Get it done. Men, if you're a man, your job is to get it done. It has to get done, you get it done. You got to work more. And don't say, oh, but my family needs it. They need you to make money and take care of everything, take the stress off everybody. And you can find time for them. Don't give me that whole workaholic thing. I work about as hard as anybody can imagine, and I make time for everybody in my family. You ask them, they will tell you. If they need time, they get it, and even when they don't ask for it, I make sure they get time. All right? So don't you assume what they need. Find out what they need and give them exactly what they need, and then if you have time, give them a little bit extra. But don't you use that as an excuse. What more than anything else, they need you to provide and protect. Now, ladies, they're never going to get there if you don't believe in them, support them, encourage them. Every time they fall down and mess up, don't pick on them and kick them while they're down. Say, hey, I love you. I believe in you. Get back up. Let's go. You can do this. I'm here. Ladies, if you can't do that for your man, you got the wrong man. And men, if your wife can't do that for you, what are you doing? We have to up our game. Everybody. You got to step up. And don't look at me like, well, Rabbi, what do you know? Listen, I've been in all of those places, okay? Where I was broke and not paying, and I know what the stress is, and I know what it's like to have nothing. And by the way, you know what I want to tell all of you? This is important. We're a ministry. We're here to help. There's no doubt about that. But I never thought to call the ministry for help until I'd done everything, which meant that usually, actually every time, I never had to call the ministry. But you guys will call us first because you're struggling. And then I ask you, well, what are you doing? Well, I'm still looking for work. Wait, you're calling me, but you're not working at McDonald's at least, and you're not working and doing this or that or some other thing. But you're calling me because now you can't pay your rent. And did you not see this coming in advance? I'm telling you, broke doesn't sneak up on you unless something tragic happens. It's happening on a real steady basis. All right? And you should be able to mitigate it before it really blows up in your face. Now, if it is an explosion and something just really went sideways, well, then call us. We can help walk you through a plan to fix that problem and get out of it, all right, and fix it. All right, so I just want to make sure we're clear on all that. We have got to fix those roles. Yahweh is going to be expecting, by the way, men, he's going to be expecting you. We're all in the middle, right? Yahweh's above all of us. We've got people that we serve below us. I don't care if you're a man and a woman. Everybody's in the middle. Even Yeshua's in the middle. He says, everything my Father says I do, and I'm responsible for all of you below me. So all of us have to be able to do both roles. Okay? You're working in a vertical structure with leadership, you should be able to be a helpmeet to that leader. You should be able to say, do you need anything? What can I do for you? I believe in you. I trust you, that kind of thing. Men, you need to find somebody you can practice that with because Yeshua's coming. We're going to do it with him. So don't just be all about, I'm the man. Well, that'll be fine until he shows up. And then he'll look at you like, I don't care. Get in line. Do what you got to do. I'm not impressed. So we have to learn both roles. Did that help? Okay, that was just the setup. Now, questions. I don't see anybody lined up. Nobody had questions? Line them up. Rob, you got any online? All right, we'll start with the online guys because nobody up here wants to come up here. That's just okay because I'll just keep talking and beating you guys up. That's fine. Look, you guys need to know from me, every one of you can do this. He didn't call you because you can't do this. Every one of you can be whichever role you were called into, you were born into. You can be a man or you could be a woman. Not the confused world nonsense. You could be what you were born to be, okay? And if you're not sure, get undressed and look in the mirror. You'll know. Because the anatomy goes with what you were born to be. Okay, Yahweh doesn't care about your emotional challenge. Okay? He intended you to be what you were physically born to be. All right, Ashley.
Cosmetic Rabbi, first and foremost, I know this is going to sound really silly, but it means a lot that you got air conditioning, so thank you very, very much.
I'm sorry, I missed that because I had to turn my monitor up.
Thank you very much for the air conditioning.
Oh, the air conditioning. Okay, good.
I probably am the one that loves it the most. My question is, and I think this is really more on behalf of my husband, because my husband and I had talked about this. How do we deal with other couples outside of the marriage and like the different genders of, like, there he is, perfect, of like, how do you, like when people want to hug you during hug time and we're not comfortable hugging a different gender, or how do we, what's the way we should interact with other couples?
All right.
When your spouse isn't around.
Absolutely good question. Okay, so first of all, we talked about providing and protecting. By the way, even the women have something to protect, right? You got a family. You can protect your relationship with your husband. You can protect your children, right? There's a protection function. So ladies, anybody that's walking towards you, any man that's walking towards you to give you a hug, if you're not comfortable with that, you don't have a right relationship where that's an okay situation, you need to be able to go, you know, put your hand out or whatever. Men, do not approach any woman just to think that you're going to give her a hug.
Thank you.
Okay? Let them approach you, and then even men, there's women you should be like the same thing. You're married, then put your hand out, okay? We don't need to be interacting with single people when we're married in that way, okay? We do not need to be doing that. Some of you see me giving lots of hugs. Everybody wants to hug the rabbi. I get that. That's fine, all right? Plus, I have a lot of daughters. They're not really my daughters, but etc. But, the ones that think of me as their sort of surrogate dad thing. And so, yes, they come and give me hugs. That's fine. But there's a relationship that's established there, okay? So don't be offended if a woman kind of just put your hand, guys, all the lady has to just put her hand up like this, and don't take it personally, all right? Then you'll see her go and let somebody else hug her. She may have a relationship with that person different than with you, okay? And by the way, if she's married, you shouldn't be wanting to give her a hug, if you understand what I mean. Unless you might have, as a friendly brother-sister thing, well, I would give you a hug, but not like, I want to give her a hug. Married woman, okay, you're not doing that, all right? So those things should come out of an existing relationship, okay? And so, look, how do I want to say this? We need to all get past our emotional crippledness. I don't know what the right word is. Our emotional fragility. Okay, we're so emotionally fragile. And stop letting everything offend you. If I go to give someone a hug and they're like, Rabbi Tom does it to almost everybody. He does not hug. He puts his fist out, fist bump you or something. He will not hug you. He's very strict about it. He'll hug his wife and a very select few people he has a right relationship with. He won't give you a hug. And you should be okay with that, all right? let's not be offended. Look, I know this came up during the announcements time. Somebody came in the other night and kind of told everybody, get out of the tent, because I had wanted everybody out of the tent, but they didn't say it maybe in the best, nicest way. That shouldn't matter to you. Okay? Yes, you would prefer somebody maybe have a nicer tone, but the information's what's important. You needed to get out of the tent, so to speak, right? Okay, don't get hung up on, well, I didn't like the way you said that. Or, I didn't like the person put their hand up and didn't want to hug me. That's only a problem if you let this be about you. This husband-wife role, and roles of men and women, it was never designed for this to be about you. It's always been about him. And you becoming like him, which is becoming selfless, right? And a selfless person cannot be offended. Because there's nothing there but the self that gets offended. Get the self out of the way, there's nothing to offend. You can't offend me if I'm not in the me. All right? It's the me that gets offended. Because what do we say? You say, well, you're hurting my feelings. Okay, well, if my feelings are not an issue, you can't hurt them. It's the my that has feelings that gets hurt. Okay? I can just have feelings, and then I can choose to express them, but they're not there out there to get hurt. What hurts is because I had something I had wanted or preferred or thought would be, and then I get disappointed. So you hurt my feelings. Oh, you told me no. That's the best way to get your feelings hurt. Have somebody tell you no, or tell you that you can't stay, you have to leave, you have to do this. No, we have to learn to follow instructions. You know what? King is coming. The king is coming!
Hallelujah.
Okay? And so that king is going to expect us to say how high when he says jump. Okay? And we should know he loves us more than anything. But if you read the scripture, he speaks to his people pretty blunt, straightforward, not really worried so much about their feelings. Okay? Read in Isaiah, he says, Israel, you maggots, why are you afraid? I'm holding your hand, but yet you're afraid. He calls them maggots. By maggots, the Hebrew word means these things that live in dead things. Like that's what he called Israel. And you get all offended because, I tell you no or tell you to leave a tent or some other thing. Well, you're so mean. God wouldn't be that way. Read your book. He's blunt. He's straightforward. Period. Okay? So stop thinking. You're still buying into the Jesus movies where he's a hippie freak from the 60s. Love, peace, whatever. Okay? Yeshua, they were scared to come up to him half the time, and he threw the money changers out. He was not this frail-looking, flower child. Okay? I'm sure he was a strong carpenter. Okay? And they weren't doing things with like the equipment we use today. So I'm sure he had some strength to him. And I'm sure he also had that power of personality like some of you get mad with me with where I walk up to you and I'll look with you with some intensity. That's why a lot of people just walk back from him. He had that intensity. You guys don't like the intensity. But Rabbi, you're too intense. That's nothing compared to what's coming. Intensity? I'm like a little, nothing compared to what's coming. Talk about intensity. What else you got?
And then my question, if I may. That's right. Sorry, the lights got me for a second. I'm letting my husband be with the men and trying to let him be like that, but I'm wondering if there's something I need to come up with to him about, or I feel like he's with someone that he shouldn't be with, but he might not be gauging that correctly. How and when, or should I even at all go to him?
All right, this is a really good question in terms of it allows me to do something. Okay, men and ladies, listen. Ladies and gentlemen, all right? Men, you should want, ladies, don't get overly excited till I explain your part. Men, you should want your wives to share all and every bit of information they want to share with you, okay? Ladies, you have to share it from a respectful position below them. You can't share it like you're their mother. You can't share it like you're their boss. The reason men don't want to hear anything from you is because that's how you tend to do it. But truly, the men, if you would ask them deep down, yes, they would love it if you would share with them your thoughts, your concerns, because you should be the best friend, the best voice, the best observation, helpmeet that anybody could possibly be. Problem is, ladies, you'll go over and correct them, or you'll come from that above position. You'll take the vertical and you'll switch it over. So if you can stay here and say, sweetheart, would it be okay if I share with you? I'm concerned about something I noticed, and I just want to give you the information, trusting that you'll do whatever you should do with that, okay? Does that make sense?
That, and also what do I do in that moment if I feel like I need to pull him away? What's a way appropriate, if there even is one?
Well, if you feel like, look, if you feel your husband's in something that you think may be problematic, just call him over and say you need him for something. Hey, honey, I need you. Can you come over here for a minute? Just, because look, any wife walks over by a bunch of guys, or a guy with anybody talking, the wife calls him over, or the ladies are talking, the husband calls him over. Everybody understands that your spouse wants you to, that you have to say, excuse me, I got to go, my husband wants me, my wife wants me, whatever. It's a great, easy way to get out. Don't say anything else, to say, and then walk away with him and say, I want to talk to you over here, and then you can have the conversation. Okay, but always be respectful, because otherwise it will feel, because the men are fragile too, accusatory. You don't want to be making it feel like you're accusing him of inappropriateness with somebody. Okay? That's where you get in trouble, because he'll take it as an accusation if you're not careful. What you want to say is, I'm not accusing you of anything. I was just uncomfortable and concerned and wanted to share this with you. Okay? It helps to prepackage so that you're understood. All right, good. All right, next, Melissa.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So you taught in the marriage and divorce contract that when you give somebody a bill of divorce that you're no longer married. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So when you have
But hold on. Okay, but in this country, and nobody's listening to me, so that's fine. In this country, I have said, at least for this group, I want that bill of divorce to have been filed, stamped, and approved before it counts, not just somebody handed you one. All right?
Okay.
Because some people are saying, well, we filed, so now we're free. No, wait, because I've seen people file and still not actually finish it out and get divorced. Okay? When you get the papers that say you are officially divorced, now you're divorced. Okay?
Okay, so I have several questions because so when a man or a woman is divorced and they have children, the children is their family, but not the ex-wife, because so many people are still saying, oh, that's my family. Well, no, she's your ex-wife. Your children are your family. And then in my last two marriages, I'll use myself, but it's for many people. But they still consider their ex-wives their wives and their family, and that causes a breach. You can never be one because you're emotionally detached, and you're a liar and you're fraudulent if that's the case. You're a deceiver, because these people, you meet someone and you're going to get married, you're going to be one and be happy, but then they're still emotionally detached, considering this person. There's a breach that might as well be 1,000 miles. And so I just want to make sure, so the children are your family, but not the ex-wife.
Okay, this is a really good question. Well, first of all, I wanted to say for all of you, anybody who's doing any of this stuff needs therapy. Okay, I'm not saying that's a joke. I mean, you need therapy. If you cannot understand that if your relationship with your spouse is such that you got a divorce, that means that relationship has absolutely changed. And you cannot act like it's now the same. I'm okay with you being friendly because you may have children in common, that being friendly makes it a lot easier to co-parent and whatever you need to do. But you are no longer husband and wife. And you cannot keep treating each other that way, especially if you then meet somebody else and then and I've heard a lot of stories like this where there are people who are now married, but the person they're married to is still enmeshed with their ex. Don't do this to anybody. If you're still enmeshed with your ex, do not put that on a new person. Close that door. I'm not saying you can't still be friends with them, especially if you have things you still have to do together with children in common. But they're not family anymore. You got a legal piece of paper saying you have no relationship whatsoever legally. Your children are still going to be your children, though, okay? Because you made them. There's no getting around that. Whether they talk to you or not or anything else, it's another story. But the thing is, they're yours, okay? They will always be your children. You can get a different spouse. But if you do, you need to let the other one go. You cannot be enmeshed in that way. I'm not saying be aggressively negative towards them. You may be very friendly enough and get along fine with your ex, but you can't allow that, especially if you get a new one. You know, you got to make sure that whoever you're with now gets all of the attention they're supposed to get, not the ex. Otherwise, why'd you get a divorce anyway? A divorce is a severing of a relationship, not a continuing in a different form. It's a severing, which is why it should be taken very seriously to do it. Okay? Let's make sure we cover that. Okay? There was something else that she said. Let's see if I remember what she was going with. All right, I don't remember. So anyway, Michael, next.
Chag Sameach, Rabbi.
Chag Sameach.
So Ashley came up here and asked a question for me, even though I was in the room. And I wanted to kind of go ahead and elaborate on it a little bit because I don't think she asked it quite the way that I was intending. But so my thing is that I'm getting to a place in my life, in my walk, where I'm trying to set up boundaries. Probably, based on what you described Rabbi Tom's as, probably a little more closer to what his boundaries look like. I'm actually not comfortable hugging everybody here. Okay, and it's not an issue of I like them or I don't like them, so I don't want them to have blue outs and all that stuff. But and I have to say, more so, especially women than men, because you can get yourself in a mess, if you hug the wrong person or the wrong way or whatever. But anyway, so I was really wondering, like, how is the best way to go ahead and approach that? Like, if you've previously, I guess, marginalized that boundary, and now you want to begin emphasizing that boundary, how is the best way to do that?
Hey, look, again, you're going to just have to do one of two things. Put your hand out or something to be like, hey, okay? Look, some of you, may have just gotten over something and just want to make sure you're not touching anybody, but you feel like you're probably okay, which is why you're at services. Hey, like, I'm not shaking hands today, I'm not doing anything, whatever. I mean, people are kind of used to that to some degree. If it's during the quote-unquote hug time when we do that, just stay in your chair. Most people don't find you in your chair. Less people will come and find you if you stay in your chair, or just move off to the side. I leave the room, but I can do that, you can't. Because I don't want to hug everybody. I find the 3 people I want to hug or 4 people, and then I will still hug others who grab me along the way, but I know the only people I'm looking to give the hug to, my wife first, my daughter second, some of the other daughters also, whatever, and that's it, right? But others will grab me along the way, and I don't want to be rude, so I'll go through that. But you have to be able to have your boundaries, okay? And understand how that can work out. Did you hear the important part at the beginning? I don't seek anybody I don't have a relationship that's appropriate to hug. I may stop because somebody stops me, and I may just be like, no, okay? but I don't seek. Men, you got to stop seeking people you want to hug, as opposed to I seek people that are expecting my hug. Does that make more sense? Who will be disappointed if I don't find them. So I go and make sure I find my wife, I find Brianna, I make sure I get those two in, all right? Then I've got a couple other daughters that are like almost like they really are my daughters, and I find them. That's it. Everybody else that I hug is people that were on my way to do one of those, and they stop me on the way. Otherwise, I leave the room. It's nothing personal. I don't have any blue, don't really care about the warm fuzzies, don't want to hug everybody. Now, physical touch is my love language, but I have to have a relationship with you, okay? So if I have a relationship with you, I'm great. I love the hugs and everything's great. I just don't want to hug everybody. Plus, I'm very aware that as the rabbi, I don't want to be accused of anything. I don't want anybody upset about anything, because all that is, that's all I need, right? Okay. Does that help, Michael?
Yes, it does, Rabbi.
Okay.
If I may have one more question. So I am a white personality. My wife is overwhelmingly red. And when she wants to do something or has an idea or she's talking about something, my general way of telling her not to do that is say, I really don't think that's a good idea, or I think there might be a problem there. And that to her does not sound like no. So is that basically what I need to do, just change that to a flat out no to get her to understand that? Or
she just said yes.
Figure that out a little bit.
Yeah, she said yes.
Okay.
Look. What are the 3 words I've told you guys over and over again? Observe, learn, adjust. Pay attention to your wife. You just said that certain things you were doing have not worked. Well, try no. Some of you have tried no and it gets them too upset. Find other words then. Learn and adjust. And especially when she just said yes, tell me just no straight out, okay? Well, if that's what she wants, then do it. Use it.
Maybe I'll start now. No.
There you go. All right, Rachel, hold on one second. I'm going to get a few from live stream and I'll come right to you. All right, live stream. Rob, Shamash Rob.
Okay. Shelley Bell says, Rabbi, can you please explain how to be a widow and single and do the best I can do? I don't want to disappoint my Father in heaven.
All right, I'm not really sure what you're getting at, Shelley. I'll try to get that. First of all, Shelley Bell, I am so glad you made it through your surgeries. I talked to Michelle last week before she thought she was going to have them last week, the surgery. And it didn't end up happening until now, but or just the other day. So I just so glad that it all worked out. As I told you, I expected it would. So I'm very excited for that. Okay, look, our roles within the context of being either a man or a woman can change as we are different ages, different situations as far as like being married, divorced, single, widowed. I mean, these things all affect things. What Abba wants you to do is have peace with whatever you've got, okay? Have peace with what you have. If he wants you to be something different, he'll take care of that, okay? I can tell you right now, I've been on that other side of it where I wanted to be married. I was single a long time. My efforts made no difference. I made lots of efforts till I was 35 years old. I could not find through my efforts, okay? When I stopped making an effort, I found. Abba wants to provide, Abba wants to provide. My wife will tell you that she was reconciled to being single, she was going to adopt children, and then she met me. Abba will provide. So the whole key, Shelley, is to be at peace with what you've got going on. You could still express to him what you would like. Would you like to be married? Would you like to be this or that? Are you happy being single? Hey, don't send anybody my way. I'm quite comfortable where I'm at, And that's fine too, but at least be at peace with what you have, all right? Because I can tell you right now that the effort is not what makes the difference, okay? Somebody's just gonna pop into your life in an unexpected way. I got a lot of people that have met since they've been a part of m.t.o.i, and I would not necessarily put them together like just looking at them, but Abba put them together. Not that there's anything wrong. I'm just saying it's just they showed up and they met each other and they weren't necessarily looking for anything, and it just what happened, right? He put it together. But you, in the meantime, until something does, maybe it's nothing, be at peace. Okay, Paul says, I've learned that whatever state I'm in, to be at peace. That's the key. All right, next.
From Val in New Zealand says, if husband or wife is tithing but other isn't, can the husband or wife make the other half tithe, or is it between them and Abba? Thank you, Rabbi, always for your help. Hag Sameach.
All right. So that's Michael and Val there in New Zealand. Look, you got to remember there's a difference between what the man does and what the woman does. If the husband is covenanted, he can make the wife tithe. Because after all the money is still his responsibility no matter who makes it. So he should be authority over those things. Now again, if you didn't come to that kind of an agreement when you started and you're not both covenanted, you're not both... See, this is... Okay. I'm going to say something that I didn't get to say earlier as part of the setup, but I probably should have. When we talked about all of the setup of this, things that we talked about in the first 6 parts, we forgot to go through the idea of this. It is vital for this to function as described scripturally that you are both walking the same walk under the same vertical structure. Because if you're in this and your spouse is not in this, then you're not walking the same and don't see things the same. You're going to fight over things because you're not going to see them the same. But if you're in this, at least the way I'm teaching it, from the way I understand this, then you should know that the husband has authority over the decisions financially. And so if the husband says, hey, we need to be tithing, then we need to be tithing. Now, women, if the man's not doing it, let's take it the other side of it. The man's not doing it, that tells you a little bit about your man. Okay? Tells you a little, look, we learn a lot. Elder could tell you the same thing. We learn a lot when we have issues with if somebody has an issue, comes up, things happen. One of the things, you know what we look at? Not for the reasons you may think. We look and see whether or not that person's been tithing. We got people who ask for benevolence. One of the first things we do is say, we want to see if they've been tithing. Because if they've not, this is probably part of the reason why they're having financial issues, is that they haven't understood the financial part of all of this. So it's not about trying to, I don't want you to think it's like, oh, you just want to see if they gave before you give them. No, it has nothing to do with it. It gives me a gauge of where they're at with their walk. Okay? Leadership. Anybody we put into any kind of leadership, we've noticed people that stop tithing, and then all of a sudden they're gone. It's a good metric that tells us like a pulse we can check. Okay? And so ladies, if your husband isn't tithing, that ought to tell you some things about where he is in his vertical, where he is in his trusting of Yahweh, where he is in his walk. It's a very simple mechanical thing. There are some very simple things, okay? Eating correctly, simple enough, check ingredients, don't eat what you shouldn't eat. Showing up on Saturday, very simple thing, keeping feasts. These are simple things. And if your husband or your wife is not doing them, you have a walk problem, okay? Now, of course, if your spouse isn't in this walk, well then, ladies, your husband, he does what he does. You can tithe only on your money. Now, what if he doesn't want to let you do that? You have a marriage problem. Look, some of this walk is going to let you know whether or not you have a marriage problem. And that's just a reality that you needed to know. Because you can't make him. And men, well, my wife won't let me make her do anything. Well, then you have a marriage problem. If you don't have authority, then you have a marriage problem. I know lots of people that have marriages that are either in real jeopardy or have just ended or have ended recently because they never had real authority in their house. Their wives either made more money or did this or did that, and they never had real authority in their house. So let's start with this. This is what I said we should have said preemptively at the beginning. If you are going to get married, like right now you're not married, you're single. If you marry anybody that's not under the same leadership that you are, I'm going further than just a walk, you're out of your mind. Okay? You will have problems that cannot be fixed. Because you guys, if you're both under the same leadership, you come to that leadership can tell either one of you to knock it off. Because you both respect that leadership, you're submitted under that leadership. So there's authority by relationship. You've already given authority by relationship. I watch people and they're having fights, and people that have even been related to me, and I've said, Did you go to the pastor at your church? Did you do whatever? Well, we're not really under that, and he likes my husband better, or they like my wife better. They're not under the same leadership. And I got some of you that are getting desperate as singles, you're looking outside of the walk, or you're looking outside at least of the same ministry that you're in. That's a big mistake. I know you're desperate, your emotions are getting at you, your hormones, whatever, you're lonely, I get it. But I also can tell you from a lot of counseling, and some of you should know better because some of you have been married before and you're still having the same problem. A bad marriage is awful. Why be desperately ready to go put yourself in a thing that is likely to go bad? Because it's not founded right. It's not structured right. So the odds of it going bad, look, any marriage right now is a 50-50 of going bad. That's at least the statistics that are out there. You're going to increase that tremendously by doing any of these things. You're going to give yourself almost no shot at it going well. Don't do that. I know some of you got your children. I don't know what you're doing with your children. Some of you got your young teenagers already hooked up like they're going to get married. They're going to trip and do things they shouldn't do, and I don't know what you're letting them do. Okay? Not judging you. I think you're being dumb. And some of those children are here at this feast, and they're already like, they might as well be married. This is foolishness. I'm glad they found each other. This is not going to go well ultimately, okay? Some of you just want your child to just meet anybody, or just want finally to find somebody. You want to finally find somebody. I had a lady who used to come to the congregation, has been a couple years now, but she wanted to go start dating some guy outside in the world because she wasn't finding anybody in the local congregation. I said, that's a big mistake. She ended up taking that whole mistake out of the congregation. Matter of fact, the last one she told me she was interested in was a married man. I said, you're crazy. But she was desperate. You guys have got to, if you're ruled by your emotions, you're not ready. Do you understand? You are not ready for what he's planning for you. If you don't have discipline over your emotions, you're not ready. I got a bunch of you, the divorce papers are still wet as you filled them out and you're already dating people. Can't wait. Oh, but Rabbi, it's going to take months. So what? What's the big rush? Be patient. I've got like 4 marriages in the last 3 years where they weren't patient. Nobody wants to be patient, wait for the papers. What is the big rush? Besides which, that makes you a rebound on some levels. Odds of making a bad decision higher, not that they did. I think people make pretty good decisions pretty much, but I'm just saying is, can you just be patient? And they'll call me up and I find out they're already doing all kinds of things. And I'm like, what is that showing the Father in terms of your discipline and your patience? Okay? If Yah forbid somehow I was single by divorce or whatever like that, I would not be doing anything for a good long time to make sure. If I was divorced because it was a terrible marriage, I would not be rushing to get into another one. I'd want to get into another one probably. I'm not going to rush. I'm going to be patient. Do it right. Be patient. If it's right, it'll still be there 3 months from now. What's the big rush? I see this all the time. Some of you need to own it. I'm not looking anybody in the eyes. I'm going to avoid the eye contact so I don't mess with anybody. But I get these comments all the time where I find out, oh, so-and-so and so-and-so. I said, wait a minute, are your divorce papers done? Well, we filed them, but did they come back stamped, approved, done? No, then knock it off. Look, if we were in ancient Israel, filing would be enough because you'd hand the person the paper and you're done. They'd have a paper now to show everybody I'm divorced. But that's not the way it works here. You have to file them, and until they get filed and approved and everything, whatever else has to happen, you could still rescind them. And I've seen that done in this congregation. A couple I thought divorced, turned out they never did. And I knew the papers were filed, or at least filled out. But then they grabbed a hold of it before it was finished, and they rescinded it. Patience, children. Patience. It's one of the fruit of the Spirit. We're doing that this week, with the children's programs, doing the fruit of the Spirit. Patience. Okay? But then the other part of it is, do not find anybody. If you're an m.t.o.i, under me type person, do not find anybody that's not also that. And by the way, just because they attend, I'm not even talking about that. If you are someone who counsels me regularly, you better marry someone who counsels with me regularly. Because just because they show up doesn't mean anything. You want someone with the same relationship with your leadership that you have. Otherwise, and I've had to do this with a lot of couples, you know? Look, Ashley and Michael, they've come up plenty of times and talked to you guys, and you know what? They both respect me enough that when they come to me, when they're having some issues, I can tell either one of them to knock it off. And have. And you know what? Their marriage has improved. But I can do that with them because they both respect that, right? And I can name others, I won't, but I'm just saying is, you guys, don't make that mistake. That's a bad idea. It's a bad, bad idea, you know. Oh, well, they're Messianic. Okay, what does that even mean? You know what we teach here, and you know what they're teaching down the road and everywhere else. Is it the same? No. So you can't tell me, well, they're Messianic. Oh, they're Sabbath keepers. We're like 12 miles from the Adventist college. Do they teach what we teach? They're Sabbath keepers. Okay? I mean, two can't walk together unless they agree. And that's not just like, oh, well, we both believe in Messiah and Yahweh and Torah, but do you believe it the same? Do you see it the same? Do you understand it the same? You know, my wife and I, we have issues like everybody else, but you know what keeps us together? We're walking together. We see everything the same. We never argue about Torah. We never argue about Scripture. We never argue about the vertical. Okay? We walk together. And that's been a blessing that we've always done that. No matter where we ended up walking, we walked it together on the same page. That doesn't mean everything we agreed on, but at least the walk part, right? And that's always been the glue that's helped us through any of the challenging moments. So you marry someone where you're not really walking together, and then you want to do something and they don't, or they want you to do something and you don't, because they think it's okay, but you don't, yeah, you're going to have a problem. They want to drag you off to some event on a Saturday, like a wedding or something, and you don't want to go. Or you have kids, and then the kid's having something on a Friday night, and you don't want to go. Or they're in sports now, which you didn't really want them to do, that's going to be on Saturday, and they want you to go. You can avoid all that. That doesn't mean your kid won't want to do it, but then at least it's you and your husband or you and your wife are on the same page with it, okay? And that's the important part. All right, Rachel.
When it comes to determining whether a guy is a boy or a man, whether he's got a plan, what are some things to look for? I was thinking about your diagram from the you are here to the destination. Is looking at what his destination is, what he's using to get there, a good map for that?
All right, really, really good question. First, ask him to see his bank account. No, I'm kidding. It wouldn't be a bad idea, actually. Look, there's two parts of that diagram. Step one, you got to find out where he is. Where are you in life? Do you have a budget? Do you have finances that are good? Do you have a career that's going? Where are you? You are here is where we start, right? So you should know where he is in life, in the journey, in the path. You find out he's had 4 different jobs in the last 2 years that he only kept for so many months and he doesn't have any kind of a real plan. That ought to tell you something, okay? Or maybe he's had 4 jobs in the last 2 years and each one's been a step up and it's going someplace. Find out where he's been and where he is. Then ask him, where do you expect to be in 5 and 10 years? What's your plan? Depends on how old he is. You could ask, hey, if you're in your 40s, you say, where do you expect to be in 60 when you kind of get near retirement or whatever? What is your plan to get there? What are you hoping for? What's that life going to look like with you if I buy into it and join you? Where are you going? Yes, have that conversation. And if he can't answer it, you're dealing with a boy. He's not ready if he doesn't have any idea where he's going. See, most people don't know where they're going because they're busy struggling just to exist in the now. So they're not going anywhere. I'm just trying to survive. I'm like right here, you know? So figure out where he's at first. Are you in debt up to your eyeballs? How do you handle money? Do you own a house? Do you own a car? What do you have? Okay? If we're talking about younger, what's your plan? What do you want to, where are you going with your career? I mean, if they're working in fast food, and that's all well and good if they're 18, but what about, because my daughter got married at 18, so you can get married young, and I talked to her husband before they got married and what his plan was, and he had a plan. Some of the elements didn't go exactly the way he wanted, and he kept readjusting the plan. And so, but also he counseled and worked with me and said, okay, what do you think of this and what do you think of that? Because he wants to do the things that he knows needs to get done. He's getting guidance. That's part of the idea of moving up, is you need to always get guidance to develop your plan, to make sure your plan has some sort of endorsement from someone who knows what they're talking about, right? So when you're evaluating a potential husband, you should really have a real clear idea of where he's at and where he's planning to go, and then how he's planning to get there. And he should be able to tell you this, okay? Look, when I met my wife, you guys all have heard this story many times, she had this little list. It wasn't written out, but she had this list of all these things she was looking for in a man, and she sort of ran it off to me one night. We were sitting out by the pool at the apartment complex I was at after having dinner. We're just sitting and talking, and I said to her, I said, look, I'm not all of those things yet, some of them, not all of them. I said, but I want you to know those things are in my destination plan. And then we talked about it and what my plans were, how to get there, and what I was doing to meet some of the things I wasn't yet, whatever. But I was also open enough to say, well, no, I'm not all of those things. This is where I am right now. This is where I used to be. This is where I am now. This is where I'm trying to head. And this is the plan. Because after all, you need to be joining into that journey as the co-pilot encourager, not a co-pilot backseat driver. Okay? Ladies. Okay?
So the follow-up to that is how to balance that with believing in a man when he's not there yet.
Again, you have to believe in his plan. Okay? You have to believe in him. All right? My wife had to believe me. I told her when I answered her questions and said, look, I'm not all of those things. She could have believed I was just throwing her a line when I said, oh, but it's a great list. I want to be all that. And it could have been a line. It wasn't, but it could have been from somebody else. And I told her that. I said, look, you can believe me or not, but your list is really a good list. That's actually the same as the items that I'm not yet are on my list too. I said, you can believe me or not, but I'm just telling you they're the same as my list. That's where I'm going anyway, and you're welcome to believe it. And so she had to buy into me, okay? But she had to buy into me not with a blank check, but with I told her and made a commitment, I'm going those places. I wasn't all that yet. Now, I've gotten to everything that she had said I've gotten to. So I fulfilled everything that was on that list. Not immediately, but over time. Because it was my list too. I wasn't lying to her. Okay? But the thing that when you say, well, then how do you support? How do you believe in when he's not there yet? Well, do you believe in him? Look, when you have children, you'll know better. You believe in that kid. He can't really do anything yet or whatever it is, but you say, but I believe in you. You can do it. And they struggle and they fail, and you pick them up and say, I know you can do it. Why? Because you know the kid. You know what's inside of them, and you know the character, and you say, you can do this. So do you know that man well enough to know what he has inside? See, some of you are marrying a bunch of guys who've got nothing but lazy and quit inside. That's what they got, lazy and quit. There's nothing to believe in there. You watch a guy struggling, but there's a fire inside there that really is trying to come out. Believe in that. But do you have any evidence? Are you seeing anything to support? And look at, a guy wants, some of you are already married to the problem, right? Your husbands are not what they need to be. Then look at them and say, give me something to support. I want to support you. Do something to inspire me to believe that you want to get this done. I don't care if you fail. Show me you're going to make the effort. Guys, you want your ladies to support you. If you ain't doing anything, then get off your butt and do something. Give them something and say, look, I may not work, but I'm going to try something. And try something that has at least a reasonable chance of working. Don't just try some crazy lame-brained idea and say you tried something. Okay? Which means what? You should probably get some guidance before doing it. Now, all of you have a huge advantage. You have a ministry between myself and Elder Billy that have done a lot of different things. And we have a very wide spectrum of expertise we can share with you if you come and ask our opinions on things, especially when it comes to business and financial things. But so many of you just run off and do these things, then it blows up in your face, then you come to us. I'm like, well, why didn't you come to us first? Well, I don't know. Because you knew we would have told you it was dumb, and you wanted to do it anyway.